the odds of you getting your face ripped off by a bear are much greater for a grizzly than for a black bear.
Mm-hmm.
Come in a little closer. There you go. Not that close. That's just weird close. This fall, I've got some hunts planned in some very remote areas of Alaska where there's a very, very good chance that I'm going to be close to the baddest, well, the second baddest predator in North America, and that's the grizzly bear.
What is the number one? Polar bear?
Well,
okay.
in terms of if you come in contact with one, yeah, polar bear, because they're going to eat you.
They're going to eat you up.
Yeah.
Your food.
A grizzly, you come in contact with a grizzly bear, you might find one that is predatory, but most of the time, most grizzly attacks are non-predatory. They're
territorial.
Defensive. Yeah. Either you're going to come up on a bear that's guarding a kill, or you're going to come up on a sow with cubs, and those two situations are the ones that you don't want to run up on, especially sow with cubs. So I have been charged by one grizzly, and that was actually on the show alone. I got some of that on film. You know, you never know what to expect when you're faced with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very kind of pleasantly surprised at how I handled that situation. When I went out there, so I knew that there was a bear coming. I mean, I knew that there was a bear in the woods, and the reason I went out there was actually trying to get footage of the bear. Ended up finding myself in a situation that I didn't anticipate. What I was trying to do was go out and get set up and have the bear come to me. And what actually happened is the bear and I passed each other in the woods, and I didn't know it, and I got around on the back side of it. I think the bear maybe heard me, maybe saw some movement, and I think he was coming to just see what I was. Maybe he thought I was a deer he could eat. When he saw that I was a human, he stopped from here to that willow right there, which is 10 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say 20, 30 feet away.
Yeah, so he came running from 100 yards, and he was coming, like full tilt.
How'd that feel? You had your little stick
so
bow?
I had my longbow. I had my longbow in one hand, and I had a camera with a tripod in the other. When I saw him coming, I threw my bow down, I switched hands with the camera, and I pulled out my bear spray. So I had the presence of mind to do all that stuff. And the reason I say I was pleasantly surprised is because I handled and this happened in seconds. I mean, not even seconds, probably maybe 2 seconds. You know, and I had the presence of mind to still film everything.
That's
and
cool.
Actually get pretty good. You know, he was on the other side of a tree, so I couldn't really see him, but I had the camera pointed in the right direction. And so I feel like if I had the presence of mind to do all of that stuff and still maintain filming and all of that, I think I could hold on target with a bear that's doing the same thing.
You definitely could. You're a good shooter.
That's a good topic to address is my choice of taking a pistol versus pepper spray. And I probably will have pepper spray. I'll have pepper spray hanging on my pack. The problem with pepper spray is wind. Especially in Alaska, there's a good chance, like today, if we're out here, let's say we're in Alaska today, we've got a pretty strong wind coming this way, and a bear's coming to you, or if you have a strong crosswind, that pepper spray, you're either going to spray yourself, or it's just going to be seasoned ineffective because the spray is going to be going sideways
now
anyway.
You're blind.
Now you've peppered yourself. You've seasoned yourself up for the bear.
So I think everything that we're going to talk about today is applicable to human threats. Pepper spray is great until the guy's got on glasses like yours and mine that are pretty good wraparounds. Might it get in their face? Sure, but I can still see. And I've been pepper sprayed more than once in training. It sucks, but you can fight through that. And I've heard instances of bears being sprayed in the face and it not doing anything. It's a mechanical thing, just like a gun. It can fail. We were talking about this earlier. The nozzle can get plugged up. Somebody can accidentally push it or purposefully to experiment with it, and now it doesn't work. Like a fire extinguisher that you trust is there. Which, side note, check your fire extinguishers. And so I think it's a thing. It's not the end all be all. And I too would also have it. I travel with it too if I'm in the woods. So
the other point that I'd like to make about bear spray versus firearms is if you are going to carry a firearm and expect to use it to defend yourself against a bear, it's imperative that you're familiar with it and that you've practiced extensively. If you can't make that commitment, I think you're much better off with bear spray.
Sure.
Because it's just a point and hose the area down, versus with this, for a bear, you got to be pretty accurate. I mean, the target that you're shooting for, if you're going for a brain shot, you're thinking about hitting a Coke bottle that's coming at you at 30 miles an hour. And oftentimes from here to that, so you've got a split second to get your rounds off and stop that bear.
I dig it. It's a singular tool. This is a little more final, but even then, the pistol, we're choosing a 10 millimeter. I've got a 44 Magnum down here. I think for most people that are bear guides or bear hunters, this would be the bare minimum if you're going looking for trouble with a bear. And the 44 Magnum is significantly more powerful than the 10 millimeter. This is a 10 millimeter is probably more in line with a 41 Magnum, and that would be with a properly loaded 10 millimeter, which we can talk more about. I've got 6 rounds. You've got 15 plus 1 in the chamber, so that's significantly more. The argument of, well, if you learn how to shoot, that's not realistic. As we were talking earlier, I think you used the analogy of trying to shoot something the size of a Coke can, charging at you at 30 miles an hour. I want that. I want to have that. Also, we can reload that really quickly. Some of the best dudes in the world can reload a revolver in a couple of seconds. Half second, second is a long time when an animal's covering 30 miles an hour or better as it's close to you. So capacity, shootability, that's going to be easier to shoot. There's going to be less recoil than this big 44. And then we start to talk about better rounds yet. If we know we're going to go shoot a grizzly bear or even a black bear, I can get a 460, a 454 casull, and that's what I used to hunt deer with. I don't like to shoot it. It's so bad for your wrists and hands.
So a couple more things that played into my decision to go with this gun versus something like the 44 mag, or even, if you talk about raw stopping power, a 12 gauge with slugs is way better than any of these things.
Yeah, of course.
But you also have to take into consideration, what are you going to practice with? What are you going to have with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to be carrying around a 12 gauge on a sling the whole time. And then you've got the problem of deployment.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got this thing, if I'm hunting and there's a 0.01% chance that I'm gonna have to pull this gun out on a bear, it's gonna be like thrown on my pack. It's gonna be somewhere probably that it's not gonna be very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
With this, it's gonna be on my chest. I can go anywhere, and that's one of the reasons that I went with a chest holster, is because it's always there. It's always handy. I can get up in the morning, I can put this thing on, and I can go about my day. Again, the 10 mil is something that I'm going to practice with, whereas one of the 454, I couldn't afford to put 1,000 rounds through that thing.
That's another animal. That's still expensive.
Yes.
But that stuff's 10 times the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah, a box of 50 can be $50, or a box of 20 can be $50.
Yeah. So. I wanted something that I could afford to become proficient with. I wanted something that I was going to have with me all the time. That wasn't going to be such an inconvenience that I was going to leave it in the tent and then go about my day.
Sure. That's a good quality chest rig. I've seen some that people just take hip holsters and kind of modify them. The manufacturers do. Which brand is that?
I'll show this to the camera here in just a little bit, once I take my bino harness off after we shoot. I think it's Gunfighters Inc. Is that maybe?
I think so. So one thing I got to make sure of is all the gear. You've got the binos on you. Are they allowing me to get the master grip? If in drawing I have to adjust, that may be part of the problem. So one of the challenges people have, you and I've talked about it, is that you present your pistol and it's not pointed where you're looking. What I don't want to do is have to draw a gun out of a holster and then manipulate it.
See, The reason that I have my bino harness on right now is because this is the way that I'm going to be in the woods. I'm going to have my binos on me. I could potentially have a pack on. Now this does create a little bit of an issue with being able to get in there and get a good master grip, because I can't wrap my fingers. I can't really get it. I can get this part. This a little bit more difficult. And what you'll see is the gun is kind of tucked in behind, and this interferes with my ability to get in and get a good grip on the gun. So what I've done here is just take this clip and then take my bino harness and go below and then reclip this, and that kicks this out and up a little bit, and it's much more accessible now. So by just moving some buckles around here, I've made the gun much more accessible, where I can really get my hand in there and get a good master grip on this thing. When you're talking about grizzlies and the types of situations that I might find myself in, where, you know, I could be walking through some stuff like this, very, very thick with very short sight distances. We're talking about feet in some instances, and so you're not going to have a lot of time to react, and so you're going to have to be able to get this thing out, get on target, and get rounds off accurately very, very quickly.
So we've got to be studious in getting connected to the gun in the same way, just like the bow. So that's number one. Number two is the support hand. So you probably remember that we work with this thumbs forward grip. Some people say right thumb to Jesus, left thumb towards the target. Once I find what this grip feels like, I have to always come back to this position. If the gun is moved, just I'm going to loosen my hand. You grab the slide without muzzling yourself and just move it one way, or no, move it a little bit towards you, and I'm going to relock my grip. So now look, if I point the gun out, the camera can surely see, and you can see it's no longer pointed. Now point it the other way or some other way. So my gun is now pointed way off kilter, which means for me to align it, I've now got to reposition elbows and shoulders. So again, just like the bow or anything else, throwing a baseball, throwing a football, it's all about a golf swing, finding the grip. Golf's, I think, a great analogy, even though I've never golfed. Have you golfed?
The last time I went golfing, I hit a car with a golf ball. Literally, I was driving down the highway, and I pegged right in the hood. I'm not a golfer.
So you're not a golfer either. But talk to any golfer, and it's all about how they interact with the club. So the same thing here. I've got to find what this feels like, and then mindfully, right? I can't go quick. I go at a pace that I can mindfully drive this gun out in everything, down to the angles of my wrist, the tension that's in my hand, the tension or lack thereof that I need to put in my muscles. And it's different for everybody. I weigh about 30 pounds more than you. I have a friend that weighs 100 pounds more than me and can bench press almost 500 pounds. I don't think that guy needs to squeeze as much as you or I do, right? But if we go ask one of the girls to shoot these guns, they're gonna have to hold them with every single bit of muscle to hold them. I mean, not even all their grip strength is half of yours or mine, right? So when people say like squeeze this much or that much, it's nonsense, because all of our hands are different. I'm getting a little sweaty right now in this humid day, and I can feel my hands slipping on each other. So in a bad situation, you can see my fingers sliding on each other. I would need to grip even harder. So back to the point, repetition, but we've got to build the repetition on a good foundation, which is this vise of meat and bone we're going to place around the gun. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You know all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think we should have you load your gun, throw our eyes and ears on, and we'll just shoot a few rounds, kind of assess what's happening, and then we'll make adjustments.
I gotta grab my ear.
There, you had them on your right shoulder, big boy.
Oh.
Here'd be my suggestion. So we've got one target out there at about 13 yards. Why don't you just draw, no duress or speed, and just fire a couple rounds, and we'll see where your 0 is on your Vortex red dot. So let's just see a basic draw stroke, and I'm going to watch and see where these rounds impact. I would try to aim right in the center of the steel, just so we know where it's hitting in regards to where you're aiming. Send another one and aim for the same spot. stacked on top of each other. Send one more. Dang. So your grip looks great, the recoil control's great. So the main thing that I would be thinking about, and this is some of the stuff you and I talked about, as I present the pistol, is it aligning where I'm looking? I've got my little 9mm, which is going to sound like a toy in comparison. So our draw stroke, hip, chest, anywhere on our body is consisting of the same things. The master grip, how I connect to the gun. As I present the pistol, you and I looked at somebody today that was drawing from a rig like this, and they were putting their hand here, which has a problem for me because as they draw, they're pointing at their own hand. So we want to be able to go in and out of the holster without this hand touching the holster. I want this hand up high so as the gun orients towards the target and I punch it, it's going to go right where I'm looking. So how do we get good at that? Drive your eyes to the target, get some type of body posture that's going to be advantageous to running that big 10mm, and then not fast but not slow either, being mindful of my body movements. Punch it out, punch it out, punch it out, punch it out, and you see your sights align on target. If we're hunting for the dot, then we got to do some drills to help us find the dot. I'm trying to program my brain, when do I have an acceptable sight picture? That's a 18-inch target. If we switch to that little 5-inch plate, then we know if we're sinning or not and making bad choices, like it's either there or it's not this far away.
When I was on a loan, that bear, when I first saw it, was it was probably 100 yards away, and he covered that distance in just maybe a couple seconds. And so that's kind of, in a bear encounter, that's kind of an ideal situation. You can see the bear coming from a long ways away. You can get prepared, and you gotta keep in mind that a lot of times these bears are going to be bluff charging you, and the last thing I want to do is shoot a bear that I don't have to. But you have other situations where you could be in a willow bottom and your sight distances are, feet sometimes, and so the time that you have to get out and get on target and be prepared is maybe a very small fraction of a second.
Pause these, blast to the house and grab my timer, which is sitting right in the mud room.
I like it.
We get a baseline then, and it'll be interesting for your viewers.
Okay.
All right, so Clay's walking through the woods. He's examining some moose poop. What'd you do different?
Took more time to get my...
2.9 seconds for a 15-yard hit on a 8-inch target. That's not terrible from a chest rig. Let's try it again. What would you be eating at camp up there? What kind of stuff would you be eating? 2.46. That's no slouch. I think when we're talking about like human defensive scenarios, 2.5 seconds to a target, 15 yards and in from a holster, and that's not an easy draw stroke, pulling up like that. That's not terrible at all. Let's try it again. You gonna sleep in a sleeping bag while you're up there, or are you gonna be like in a pup tent? What is that?
Sleeping bag.
2.42, 2.42. So very respectable times with a 10mm. You got to tell me which your next balloon is, so I don't know if you're just blasting into the trees and randomly hitting stuff.
Blue balloon.
Blue balloon. Blue balloon. There we go, 3:07 with a makeup. Your first shot was 2.25 seconds. 2.5 seconds, how much dirt can a bear cover?
A lot.
Yeah, so, and that's the scary thing. So you might look at this and go, oh, you're fine, Clay, 2.5 seconds.
2.5 seconds is not going to cover it. If I'm walking through a willow bottom and there's a bear from here to that tree, I mean, half a second.
Which there's Jerry Michalik, some of the greatest shooters of all time, are not going to do that. A second is probably going to be about the best you or I are going to see out of a drill like this, and that's crazy.
That's worst case scenario. That's absolutely worst case scenario. You're walking through the woods and you surprise one of those bears that are in one of those two categories that I mentioned earlier, the Sally Cubs or any bear defending a kill. I mean, But I mean, you're going to do everything you can to not find yourself in that situation.
Awareness buys us time.
Yes.
The more we're aware, the more time we'll get. I think an inch and a half, second and a half is totally doable with that rig. I think you could probably do that. So you could probably shave 3/4 of a second off of that. I want to, I've got my camera rolling and yours. We can just watch and we'll see where the hiccup is. Let's do it again. Pink or red?
Red.
.215, baby. So you've shaved more than a half a second out of this. 214. 214. As your hand goes to the gun, bring this one up here so that you're compounding your movements. That makes sense?
Yep.
Stand by. Two 216. 216. The sights were there. Just trust them. The first sight picture you see out there, send it. Don't try to make it better. Stand by. 197. 197. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! 167, boy. Ready? .157. You just fired 2 shots, 2 good hits, and 206. So first shot was .157. So we know. Did you fire again because you weren't sure where it went?
Yeah.
So your second shot, your split was 4.9, so half second. It took you a half second to reacquire the dot and fire again. You know, people hear about this stuff and they're like, oh, it took a couple seconds. You just fired 2 at 12 yards in 2.06 seconds. We can call it 2 seconds for all intents and purposes. 157, so that's your best time yet. There's your baseline. Got one more in there? .165. You got another one in there. All right, here we go. Whoa! 148, baby. Broke the second and a half. So that looked quick. I want to see that.
Getting there.
That looked quick. From a chest rig, that's that weird high elbow position. Shooter ready. Stand by. Beautiful. 166. It's starting to look nice and smooth.
I like it.
Shooter ready. Woohoo! 163. 163. That's like your magic number, huh? Stand by. That one felt good. 160. 160. Those are all good. What are you changing? You just relaxing?
I'm not looking for the dot. I'm just feeling that it's there, or trusting that it's there. But I think I'm still shooting high.
Well, I don't know where exactly you're aiming, but you're hitting the plate, which at least we know that. We could switch to that smaller mini ADAP too. Let's run this a little bit more. I'm just more concerned with the mechanics.
You want to switch to the small?
No, we'll keep shooting this one for a while.
Okay.
170. Good positive grip. 154. Now you're hugging the left edge. Good grip pressure. 160. Stand by. Ho-ho! 147. 147. Make it up! Make it up! Or don't. First shot was 146. There we go. Nice, 177. 177 was the first shot. Makeup took you to 260. There you go. Those were good hits. 184 makeup shot was a 5-6 split. So half second to your second shot. Stand by. Nice. 151, homeboy. Nice. 152. 150. You're living in that 150 world now.
Slowly cutting it down.
.175 on that first shot. Look down. Look down.
All right, guys, so just in the little bit of time that we've been out here, I feel like I've gotten better. I've never practiced against a clock. I've never timed myself. What was I shooting to start with? 2.5?
2.5, 3 seconds, yeah.
Okay, so now the last few shots, I'm cutting it down to a little over 1.5 seconds. So I'm in Pennsylvania right now, but we're in Florida for another month or so. We're gonna be headed back up to Idaho, and then right after we get back to Idaho, I'm headed to Alaska. So I don't have a lot of time to practice. So once I get to Idaho, I've got 700 rounds to burn, and I'm gonna burn it all. Anyway, I know this is different than what I usually put on my channel, but I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned because we've got some pretty epic stuff coming up this fall. Nick, I really appreciate the time you've spent with me, and
Glad to visit.
we'll see you out in Idaho next June.
Hope you don't get eaten by a bear.
If I don't get eaten by a bear. We'll see you guys next time.